Hey, Nicole here. So, as an astrologer, the vast majority of the people that I work with come to me with interest in learning more about their love life. Most people, when they come to an astrologer, I would say probably 70% are maybe not in a relationship or they're in one where they're trying to figure out if they should stay or not. And many times people are wanting to know what is ideal for me. So, one of my very favorite things to look at in someone's chart to get an idea and a feel for what their ideal partner would be is to look at someone's sun and moon midpoint. So what this is, luckily today we've got computers that take the math out of calculating things for us, but it's just taking the person's sun sign and the degree that their sun sign is in, and taking their moon sign and the degree that the moon sign is in, and finding the midpoint, on the circle of the birth chart. So with that midpoint, we then have a spot in the chart that's a sensitive spot. The reason this is sensitive is with the sun, you have someone's masculine external dynamic life force. It's their sort of outer external energy. And with their moon sign, you have their internal emotional needs, their feminine receptive qualities. So when you find this midpoint, this is a spot in their chart that sort of blends these two energies. Now, what's important is when you find out what this midpoint is, and you can do this on astro.com, there are websites that will help you calculate the midpoint. When you have the midpoint, you then want to do a synastry chart with the partner. This is, if we've got someone who is partnered. When you do the synastry chart and the overlay, you're going to see planets hopefully making some sort of aspects to that midpoint, that sun and moon midpoint. So let's say partner A, we've got their sun and moon midpoint, and then partner B, we have, all of their planets in their birth chart. Let's say their sun is conjunct, meaning it's right next to partner's A's midpoint, sun moon midpoint. This tells us that the midpoint person will feel like the sun person is right for them. There will be a natural attraction, a very easy sort of, you're the one for me. Maybe not from like a soulmate place, but it will just be kind of like, yeah, you are a person that is attractive to me as a partner, okay? That sun person has natural qualities that light up and solarize, as Stephen Forrest would say, solarize that part of the person that's this sort of perfect blending of their masculine and feminine, okay, our midpoint person. So the sun person's going to feel like they light that up, all right? Now, moon, if it's their moon, it's going to feel emotionally, this person's emotional nature, the moon person, will bring out this sense of home, this sense of coming home, feeling at home, emotionally feeling safe and secure. There will be this sort of natural understanding emotionally of how to nurture one another. Okay, let's move on to Mercury. If you've got Mercury conjunct, or by the way, conjunct's going to be your strongest, conjunct or even an opposition, but it could even be someone, it could be a trine, it could be a square, okay, but anything that's exact, let's say, I really would say 1.5 degree orb or less, okay? So let's say we've got Mercury. Mercury, this relationship's going to be one where there's more of a camaraderie there. It's a sort of a sibling relationship almost, this ability to communicate with one another and have good conversation and communication. Not necessarily romantic. This is a neutral energy. It's not necessarily suggesting that this is going to be a romantic relationship, but it definitely would be a nice relationship for repartee and conversation and intellectual exchange, which, again, depending on the birth charts of the individual people, if you've got someone who's highly air sign, Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, someone who's got all of the air houses really busy, or a Mercury conjunct Sun, that's going to be important to them that they have a relationship with someone where there's good communication. Okay, so take the whole chart into account. Then let's say we've got Venus. Okay, Venus conjunct or making an aspect to that midpoint. Venus is our planet of pleasure, romance, love, from a place of more lusty love, okay? This isn't like long-term relationship love necessarily by itself. This is Mr. and Mrs. Deborah Clement always says, the astrologer always says Mr. Right Now or Miss Right Now. It's like the current flame, it's a lover, okay? So this is someone who you'd be very attracted to physically. There would just be a natural sense that you would want this person to be your lover. They would really turn you on, okay? Now, if it was Mars making the aspect, Mars would add it's going to have that same sexual energy, but Mars rules sexuality from a place of the physical act of sex, sort of the athletic, physical act, not so much Venusian, which is more the lovemaking, pleasurable part of it, or Pluto, which is going to be more orgasm and it's more the deeper emotional undercurrent of sexuality. Mars is more just getting it on, okay? So when their Mars makes a conjunction to your midpoint, they might just feel really sexy, really hot to you. And somebody that the Mars person, there might be some aggression in one direction where one person's really kind of going after the other. If anything, probably can see the Mars person sort of lighting up, martializing. This is something, again, this is Stephen Forrest thing, but like martializing that energy in the Sun Moon person to maybe go after the Mars person. So kind of a relationship of a little chasing. Let's say you've got, let's move on to, let's do Jupiter. You know, Jupiter, if you've got Jupiter making an aspect. Jupiter, like Mercury, it's not necessarily romantic. It's just expansive. It brings laughter and harmony and where you coach each other and you believe in each other. So it could be a relationship where it could be a relationship between a coach or a mentor and a mentee kind of a thing, not necessarily romantic. Of course, this is great to have in any kind of a relationship, romantic or otherwise, because it's like you believe in one another, you support each other, and you can sort of expand each other. Be careful with squares to a sun moon midpoint. I've had this before, and it's one where especially if Mercury is involved, where words are a lot of words, but not a lot of action being shown. So you got to be careful Jupiter now, because Jupiter can expand things sometimes without always showing, without always following through, or can get you in situations where you're overly optimistic. That kind of thing can happen too, especially with those squares. And with Mars, with the squares too, it can be fighting. You know, it can be fighting. It can be really sexy and hot at first, but then it just ends up being, this is just too much, more trouble than it's worth, okay? And then with Saturn, if you've got Saturn making a conjunction or any kind of an aspect really to that midpoint, that's going to add some soberness. It's going to add some, a certain level of, one of the partners probably feels responsible for the other partner, or feels like they need to take care of things for the other partner. There could also be a sense that the Saturn person has some control over the Sun Moon person's life a little bit, or the Sun Moon person feels kind of stuck with the Saturn person. And this can be good or bad. If it's commitment, it can be, you know, Saturn brings the realities of life into, and duty and whatnot into our relationship. So it can be something where it feels like the Saturn person has to show up and be the responsible one to help take care of the Sun Moon midpoint person, which is not always a bad thing. That can be a good thing depending on the partnership. And then I'm not going to really, I guess I'll do Pluto. We'll do Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, why not? So Pluto, we'll just do, I'm not going in order obviously here, but I'm just going to jump to Pluto because it's a sexual planet. Pluto is going to add a magnetism. It's going to add, it can add an obsessive, a compulsive quality to the relationship, a desire to be close to one another, obsession. It can even be one-sided type of obsession. It can even be, if it's a square, a Pluto square, the Sun Moon person might feel pretty, you know, obsessive about this Plutonian, this Pluto person. And Pluto is a generational aspect, so anybody that's the same age as this Pluto person is going to have their Pluto in about the same spot. So this needs to be like a really exact orb, like 0-degree orb, you know, kind of a thing, where for it to really, in my mind, count. And I say that for all the outer planets. So anything after Saturn on out, I would say, make sure that it's like pretty close to exact. So Plutonian can be, it can add a level of intensity to a relationship, but it can also bring sort of obsessive and feelings and jealousy and these types of things. And also control, domination, manipulation, one person feeling like they're being controlled by the other person, and then they kind of rebel and they run away, and then they come back because it's so magnetic, and this kind of back and forth thing that can be really uncomfortable, especially if you've got two people who don't have a lot of Pluto in their natal charts or Scorpio, then you've got a relationship that probably won't last. If you have two people who have strong Pluto, Scorpio, 8th house energy in their charts, then they're probably going to be very attracted to this type of a setup. Let's say then you've got, let's do Uranus. Uranus is going to add a certain level of craziness. It can, instability, you know, with the relationship. It can make it really fun and electric, but one that's like here 1 second, then gone 1 second, then maybe back again and gone again. And then, you know, this relationship that can be really attractive, but typically not a long-term relationship. Something fun and exciting that allowed you to step into something where you sort of experimented with a new type of relating, or sexuality, these types of things. It's more of a experimental kind of an energy. Unless there's a lot of other Saturn energy in the chart, this is not one that I would want in a long-term relationship. It'd be something better for a short-term thing, a little fling, where you wanted to sow your wild oats or something with someone, okay? Neptune is going to add a level of fuzziness to the relationship. It's going to add a little bit of, you got to be really careful that you're not deluded about what the relationship is, okay? You can have the person, the Sun Moon person might feel a little where they're not totally clear about how that Neptunian person feels about them. They might think the person's more into them than they are, or there could also be, if both people are, on board, there can be a very soulful thing that happens with Neptune. Now, Neptune is very removed from the physical body, so it's not really sexual. It's going to be more spiritual. It's going to feel more like, it's a sense about things rather than words. It's hard to explain in words, but just kind of a soul connection with another person, enjoying sharing music together. This is the type of couple that would enjoy sort of artistic pursuits of some kind. It could even be as silly and simple as watching movies together and escaping through movies, or it could be someone that you drink with, or that you like do mushrooms with, or something. So Neptunian energy is very otherworldly, and you want to have some other grounded energy if this is a long-term relationship for it to be a good thing. So there's a very basic read on the sun, moon, midpoints and how they can be affected through through synastry. Synastry is a type of synergy, right? If you have questions, inbox me. If you've got a video that you want to see, let me know, because it's fun for me to have new topics to talk about. Okay, and inbox me at themodерncosmic@gmail.com if you want a reading. Thanks, bye.